Vince McMahon drama, AEW star gone from the company, plus so much more. You're not going to want to miss this right here on the Ango Show. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by, sharing your time with me. Don't forget, we got a giveaway at 100,000 subscribers, so you should definitely click subscribe if you're interested in that. I want to kick things off. Obviously, Paul Heyman going into the WWE Hall of Fame. I posted this on my community tab, and just genuinely excited about this. Paul Heyman, obviously a legend in the business. Obviously, Paul Heyman should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. And just a year ago, there was rumors that Paul Heyman would be the leading candidate to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, WWE WrestleMania this year, WrestleMania 40 is in Philadelphia, which obviously is the home for ECW. It just makes a lot of sense, right? It just makes sense. Paul Heyman being in the Hall of Fame, to be honest, I've always kind of wondered, it's like, why hasn't it happened sooner? And this is a pretty big announcement, but also what's interesting too is now there's some rumors and some stuff online that maybe Haku could be in the Hall of Fame as well. So Haku being in the Hall of Fame could be really cool, especially when you're considering the Bloodline storyline going on right now. We'll see kind of how they go about it and stuff like that. But I think it's an interesting time period for WWE, right? The Hall of Fame doesn't really mean much to me anymore. I don't know if it really ever meant anything to me, but there's just certain people that aren't in it that should be in it, and Paul Heyman was clearly one of them. So the idea that Paul Heyman's going to be in the Hall of Fame is great. One thing I really want to see happen, and this could be my personal opinion, but last year, a lot of people may not remember this, with Rey Mysterio in the Hall of Fame, we saw Dom Mysterio and Rhea Ripley walk out of the ceremony. And they position this on camera to be part of the storyline, obviously going into the WrestleMania match between Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio, right? And with Paul Heyman getting inducted, I'm curious if WWE decides to do something of similar nature when you consider that there is this massive storyline surrounding the Bloodline and, of course, The Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Seth Rollins. Especially if Haku is being put into the Hall of Fame as well, then you got to imagine that there is going to be some really cool storytelling that could happen at the Hall of Fame. And look, the Hall of Fame is about paying respect and everything like that, but it's additional content for the WWE. So naturally, it just makes sense to create a little bit of buzz, right? And if those two names are in the Hall of Fame, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, The Rock, Roman, I mean, there's just a lot of great things that could get positioned on TV, right? And I think that's the best way to look at it. Personally speaking, I'm excited to see how this all goes down. And yeah, for once, I'm actually excited about the Hall of Fame. So that's pretty cool. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk a little bit about Vince McMahon. Yeah, Vince McMahon. He sold reportedly 5.3 million stocks, or 5.3 million shares of TKO stock, which is valued at $412 million. And what does this really mean, right? Vince McMahon obviously not running the WWE as executive chairman. He stepped down, but Brandon Thurston pointed out that he basically sold $412 million. I mean, look, put it this way. Vince McMahon has cashed out over $1 billion in the past year, right? This is crazy. You know, like, this is crazy. The guy is still technically a stockholder in the WWE. He's still got tons and tons and tons of shares. And, like, what's the reason for it, right? And I think this is a very hard conversation to be had, because I think Vince McMahon and his allegations and everything, it's very serious. But obviously, when you have this many shares, when you're a stockholder, when you're a majority stockholder or a minority stockholder, it doesn't matter. Just being a stockholder in general, you know, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like it could lead not necessarily to Vince McMahon coming back into the company. I don't think he'll ever get voted back into the company, but I could see him as a stockholder, a shareholder, right? I think him holding shares of WWE can lead to some sort of influence, and I would like to be wrong on that. I would obviously hope that is not the case, but it is kind of difficult to know what his plan really is, right? Before he cashed out like $600 million or something like that. I don't know. It was crazy. And now he did 412 and he still has more left. Obviously the lawsuits aren't going to be cheap, right? So that's probably something to also factor in, but just nonetheless, Vince McMahon selling all of these shares, all of these, all of this stuff that's being, you know, At the end of the day, this man who has some serious allegations is still walking away with some very serious money, which is just absolutely asinine. But nonetheless, we don't know what's happening with Vince. I'm just hoping that there is zero influence with Vince in the company. And as I've said this before, any person who is very knowledgeable and who knows what has happened with these allegations and they were hiding it or whatever it may be, those people should be gone from WWE as well. And that brings us to our final topic of today's video. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very crazy topic, but I'm not necessarily shocked that Mike Santana is reportedly gone from AEW. Crazy. So, Mike Santana was removed from the AEW roster this afternoon, confirming his exit from the company. Santana debuted on the first episode of AEW Dynamite, obviously with Ortiz. We all know that him and Ortiz split up, and they never came back together. He came back from injury. He wrestled on Rampage in September. He didn't do shit. They didn't do shit with him. Conan stated on his podcast before that Santana felt he should have been higher up on the card. Now that he's out of AEW, Santana becomes a free agent. Nobody knows where he's going to go. Very clearly, in my opinion, Mike Santana's been killing it in House of Glory. He could be a great singles competitor. It's actually funny when he came back from injury. It's like they gave him like this cool presentation. He looked like he could be a single star. And for whatever reason, they're not moving forward together. Was this out of contract? Was this a release? Nobody really knows. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select did confirm the departure, and more details will be available later. My 2 cents is simply this, right? Whether you want to admit this or not, Ortiz and Santana, whatever the issue was beforehand, it's a real damn shame for wrestling fans, because I was there watching LAX and TNA having an incredible run. And then I see them. I remember being in the suite for when they made their debut. And I remember being in the suite telling people, I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, hey, it's LAX. It's Proud and Powerful. They're coming out. Awesome, right? They come out with the Dead President masks. Really cool presentation. In the first year of AEW, these guys did not win the tag team championship belts. It was like a mind-boggling decision. They will always be one of the biggest what-ifs in AEW history because of how good they were as a tag team. Now, with that being said, they have personal issues or whatever their issues are. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I can't tell you what it is. Nobody knows. They have their beef. That's it. They're not going to reconcile. It would be great if they had, but clearly they can't. With that being said, Mike Santana is a G. This guy can wrestle. He is really good at wrestling, but not just being a good wrestler. That's one thing, right? Being a good wrestler is one thing. He's also a great character. He understands great character work. We saw this in TNA. We saw this in AEW. So with that being said, it makes sense that Mike Santana's next obvious place should be NXT. Let him go to NXT, get familiar with WWE's system, work with some of these guys there, and then move him up to the main roster. He's a very solid act, and I actually think WWE would do a great job with him. So, me personally, I want to see Santana in WWE NXT, and if that can't happen, TNA, hey, give him the world championship. I know some people might not look at him as a world championship kind of guy, but I've seen his stuff at House of Glory. I've seen what he can do in wrestling, and I have confidence that he could be a world champion for TNA. And the cool thing is, for TNA, it doesn't have to happen right away. You don't do it right away. Within time. There's other people that need the belt first, but within time. Nonetheless, TNA, NXT, that's what I want to see. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of today's news.